Hello and welcome to Telesur. I'm Carla Gonzalez. This is Interviews from Quito, the program where we explore some of the biggest challenges facing this country and the region. In today's program, we analyze the results of the local elections in Ecuador. The process by itself began with irregularities, like the way to count votes or the lack of information for voters. Can we have an idea of how the political scenario will play out in the next few years by looking at the winners of these elections? The most interesting fact: the citizens' revolution and the improvement of their political presence in the country. To analyze this, we are talking to political analyst Fernando Casado. But first, let's take a look at a video on this topic.
Ecuadorians went to the polls to decide between 121 mayors, 46 prefects and vice prefects, 867 city councillors, and 438 rural councillors. 7 members of the Council for Citizen Participation and Social Control were elected as well. In total, voters elected 5,670 Ecuadorian officials. They must take office on May 14th. But these elections also had their irregularities. The National Electoral Council recently debated on a plan to change the mechanism for counting null votes for the Council of Citizen Participation and Social Control. However, these resolutions didn't pass.
They have attempted to create, 4 days before the vote, a project that indicated that every vote will count as 7 and that each null vote was going to be counted in the same way. But democracy won. We defeated it. The popular will finally prevailed.
But what do Ecuadorians think?
I believe that what we need is safety. The city is expanding and we need more security.
The city needs to be clean because there is trash around the city, and for the benefit of all the streets, not only the main ones, but also the side streets.
During the last popular consultation on February 4th, the Council of Participation was approved, as was the Assembly that appointed the current transitory members. In 2008, former President Rafael Correa promoted the creation of this council to protect citizens' participation. And to establish the mechanism of social control and transparency. Correa described it as one of the main democratic innovations created by the Ecuadorian Constitution.
So thank you for being with us, Fernando. So give us a general perspective of the results of these elections.
Well, thank you very much to you for the invitation. I would say that the overall perspective over the results of these local elections is that the vote has been very fragmented in Ecuador, and that's due to the void that the Correistas in a way has left in the Ecuadorian political arena. We'll see that there is an expansion of independent movements, and still the Correísmo in those places where they have been able to present candidates has still retained a very good ballot. And also the Social Cristianos, they are from Guayaquil originally, the conservative party from Guayaquil, also has expanded after the Correísmo has been prevented from also running in these elections, because in order to be able to interpret correctly what has happened in the local elections in Ecuador, we have to look at how the legal system has tried not to allow and put many cumbersomes to the Correísta political party. First, they tried to create a new party after they lost the so-called Alianza País, the so-called List 35, and they were not able for 2 times to present a new party in order to collect the signatures to create a new movement. And in the end, after many difficulties, they could make an alliance with an already existing political movement in order to present candidates. But that was 3 days before the deadlines. As a result, the Correísta forces could only present candidates in 25% of the municipalities, less than 50% of the provinces, and less than 10% of the rural areas, the so-called juntas parroquiales. So even though they were the first movement in 2 of the 3 most populated provinces, because they could present candidates in Guayas, and they were second in Guayas, and they won Manabí, which is the third most populated province, and Pichincha, which is also one of the second most populated province. So what we also have to know or get also as a result of these elections is that even if the Correísmo as a political movement has been harassed and has been tried to disappear, it's still alive.
And what about Alianza País? After 10 years of having win after win with Rafael Correa as president, now it's virtually non-existent.
Yeah, Alianza País, first, well, the government got the movement or the legal movement in the sense that they got the name of the party, they got the properties of the party, they got the logo and the color of the party, but it seems that they have lost the militants. The militants have moved towards this new movement that Correa has done the alliance with. So it's really a disaster, as you put it, because after 10 years, a decade of hegemony, political hegemony in Ecuador, they have virtually disappeared from the political arena. In the last elections in 2014, they got 69 of the municipalities and many of the provinces. And now very few provinces have been retained by Alianza País, but also normally in alliance with other local movements, what also makes that probably this alliance afterwards, after the electoral process, they disappear or they really diminished in their strength. So yeah, virtually Alianza País has disappeared from the map. They obviously retain the political party, because in order to be able to retain a political party after elections, you have to have at least 4% of the electoral vote and also 25 members of the local councils. So they retain the party at least, but they have lost this hegemony they were used to during the last decade, and they have really disappeared from the political map in Ecuador.
And let's analyze the two main cities. You already talked about Guayaquil and the Social Cristiano Party being the most important ones there in both mayor and prefect. But in Quito, the two most important or more popular candidates during the campaign did not make it to the first or the second position. It was another party. Can we analyze this party?
This Social Christian Party has been hegemonic during the last 20 years in Guayaquil, the first commercial city, and the second most important region in Ecuador, Guayas, and they retain their stronghold. It's sort of a stronghold of this movement. They tried to expand towards the rest of the country, but towards this movement there is a lot of resistance in the mountains area, or in the Andean area of Ecuador, and in this occasion they haven't managed again to expand from their original stronghold. Nebot, who is the historic mayor of Guayaquil, the second city of Ecuador, and maybe was during the last decade the main opponent of Rafael Correa, the antagonist of Rafael Correa, have tried to make this national movement in order to think about the possibility, probably, of becoming or running for the next presidential elections, and even trying to advance those presidential elections. But according to the map, it's not that clear he will try to step forward in that direction, even if they retain their stronghold, which is already an achievement. However, in Pichincha and Cuenca, the two other main cities, this movement is practically virtually non-existent as well. They got result less than 5% of the ballot with the candidates they launched in these cities. So actually are in those cities where other movements are strong, or even the Correísmo. there has been many anomalies, let's say, in these elections as well. This is something that should be pointed out and maybe comment on in depth afterwards. But in Pichincha, for example, the Correísta candidate, Luisa Maldonado, got the second position, just 2 points percent behind the first candidate, and also in a very controversial counting of the ballots. So what we see now is, as I said, a very fragmented political map in Ecuador. And again, besides all the attempts in order to dismantle the so-called correísmo, the movement is still alive.
And let's discuss the irregularities, the vote counting. The OAS even, they've said that there were strong irregularities that have affected the process, especially with the voting process, how to count the null votes, for example.
Yeah, well, that was actually, that's almost funny, if it was not real. The thing is that the Electoral Council of Ecuador, 3 days before the elections took place, and already during the silent period, they wanted to modify the statute of how the null votes were going to be counted in the Council of Citizens' Participation and Social Control, which is like a fourth state branch in Ecuador. It's together with the three traditional state branches, as the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. This is like a fourth branch, and it's something very special according to the constitution in Ecuador. The thing is that there was the risk that Correístas could got the majority in the elections. So then this electoral council, in this eternal policy of harassment of the Correísmo, decided that that would be a disaster, and that they were going to change the rules of how to count the null vote. Imagine that what they have proposed or discussed, and that was very criticized by the Organization of American States, was that since people were going to choose for 7 members of this Citizens' Council, if someone wanted to vote null, it will count 3 times a vote. So instead of just counting the whole vote as a null ballot, it will have it would be counted as 3 votes.
For each of the ballots that you have, you had 1 ballot for 3 members that were men, 3 members that were women, and 1 member of nationalities.
Exactly. So it would be 7 times. If you put a null vote, that would be like 7 votes. So then that was completely surreal, because nowhere something like that has ever happened. And in a way it was because this, as I told you, fear of the increase of Correísmo, or the possibility of the Correístas to get into this institution. Because in a way this is the constitution that nominees many of the control authorities, like the ombudsman, like the general attorney, and many others. So this has actually been the institution that, after the referendum last year, in a way has changed most of the institutions also in transitional authorities during the last year. So to have back Correístas in this institution that will again review all the acts that their antecessors did was very dangerous for this electoral council, and that's why they were discussing the possibility of doing such a surreal action. Yeah, but well, in the end, and again, there has been many anomalies, because the counting of the votes has been too late. Like,
but there was a blackout for hours.
Yeah, there was a blackout, first of all, and then the results were not published. The website of where live were counted the votes also didn't work. So many suspicious happened. Imagine that during the Correísta decade, 5 minutes delay was already a denounce of fraud by the opposition. And this time, like, the results should have been published. Well, first, the exit polls were not published, never were allowed to be published. So it has been the first time that exit polls has not been published in Ecuador. And secondly, the real results should have been announced by the Electoral Council by 8:30 p.m. And at midnight, there were many cities where there were no results, for example. And also this Council of Citizens Participation, we don't have the final results. We still do not know what's the outcome of that election either. So this has been something that has been very strongly criticized by the preliminary report of the Organization of American States, and we will see what happens, because this regional organization has not declared that the elections were not fair and in the overall perspective transparent, but in a way there are things that make you think that there are something is not working correctly.
Because the candidate that is in second place for the mayor of Quito, Luisa Maldonado, she's announcing that there might be irregularities, because at the end it was a surprise for a lot of Ecuadorians that the candidate that is going to win the mayor office is Yunda, a candidate that many people did not believe that would make it to the first step.
Yeah. And that could happen.
Who is
that
he?
An outsider or someone unpredicted can win the election. But the thing is that it's interesting that I was looking at the null vote in the 13 main cities, most populated cities in Ecuador, and surprise, surprise, the city that has the biggest percentage of null vote is Quito. The second thing that is also very suspicious is that normally the blank vote goes together with the null vote. So if you have many null votes, you will also have many. That's a correlation.
If you don't know who you want to vote for, or you don't want to vote for anyone, you either vote
null or
blank. Yeah.
And then so we have the biggest amount of null votes in Quito, but is among the 4 cities that has less blank votes. In the rest of the cities, if you have few blank votes, you have few null votes, and vice versa. So that also makes you think that what has happened there in Quito, that the behavior of the electorate does not fulfill what normally happens in Ecuador.
Especially in a city so important as the capital, which we've seen that it's very important to put presidents and to take them out as well.
Absolutely, and many presidents in Ecuador have been before mayors, and also is where all the political power has the residence, sort of speaking. Mm-hmm. So that's really controversial, also because the difference between these two candidates was very, very small. And finally also, it is interesting that the future mayor has 3 members for the city council out of 21. But the second
doesn't even have a majority
in
its own
it has
council.
a very small minority. However, Luisa Maldonado, the second, the candidate that got the second place, has 9 members for the city, obtained 9 members for the city council. So she triples the amount of councils that the winner has, and that's again where it's very weird and doesn't fit with the logic of mathematics.
Can it be maybe an analysis on how people are maybe apathetic towards this election? We had thousands of candidates and little information until a week ago about the process.
For sure that's the case in the Council of Citizen Participation, in the sense that very few people know what's the function of this institution. Also, in a way, the political situation in Ecuador creates an apathy at the moment. Imagine that also here the vote is compulsory. You have to go to vote either or you are fine. That also makes people be forced to vote, but don't have a clear picture what to vote. And we can see that also in this fragmented amount of candidates and the percentage they got in the elections. Like for example in Quito, you have, if Yunda really won the election, he got 21% and he will be the mayor with the list of the lesser votes in the last 27 years. The same happened in Cuenca, the 3rd city, and the same happened in Guayaquil, the 2nd city. So and then you have 25%, the first candidate, the winner of the election, then the second 18 points, the third and the fourth 17 points, and many other candidates with important amount of votes in a very fragmented and divided electoral choices. So that's something that we were not used to in Ecuador. It's a very awkward political situation, and also contributes to weaken the legitimacy of the future mayors and also the future heads of the provinces that has got also a very small percentage of votes. And
we've discussed Guayaquil and Quito, the main cities, but what about the smaller cities? They do have at least some, I don't know what the word would be, to have a lack of care of voting, or are they actually saying who could be the next mayors of those cities, or maybe the president? Because the smaller cities do have their own weight. That was the word I was looking for, their own weight in this election.
They do have, and in the small cities it depends on the region and also which cities we are talking about, because yeah, in the whole Ecuador there are 221 cities that has been elected mayors, and but we might see the same situation. We might see first a very fragmented vote, again because this has been reproduced all over the country, I would say, and that will weaken in general, I would say, the politics in Ecuador. Things are very like not very clear now. Like you don't have an hegemonic party or political movement as you used to have it during the last decade, and that might end up in a very volatile political situation also at the national level. We might see, for example, if Nebot, as we said, coming from his stronghold in Guayaquil, trying to expand towards the Andean area from the coastal area, we might see advanced presidential elections, but again, things are not clear at all. By the way, another of the losers of this election is also the Guillermo Lasso, no? The candidate that got to the second round in the presidential elections but didn't win. No? Mm-hmm. He also, his political party also bet and make like very strong bets to get strong cities, big cities in Ecuador, and didn't manage to do it. They, for example, in Cuenca, they make an alliance with the mayor who came from a different movement, Marcelo Cabrera, but they lost very badly in these elections. It was an outsider who no one knew who he was or where he came from, Pedro Palacios, who got as an outsider. He's now the mayor in Cuenca, the third biggest city. So again, he's another of the losers of this electoral process. So what we see is a very fragmented political map, again, once again, I have to repeat it, and that makes unpredictable the political future in Ecuador at the moment.
And also a very risky situation if you don't know where your candidates come from or which alliances they've made in the past election as well.
For sure, for sure. And that's actually the case with the only, well, the two big parties at the moment are Lista 5, Lista number 5, Social Commitment is the name of the party of Rafael Correa, and the Christian Democrats, right, with Nebot, number 6 in the elections. Those are the only two real parties that still exist in the Ecuadorian politics. However, most of the wins that the Social Democrats obtained in the last elections were also in very weak alliance with other local movements. Mm-hmm. So even if Nebot is trying to show off that now from a coastal movement they became a national movement, is not true at all. No? So again, it's a very risky situation, as you said, because it's very unpredicted what can happen in Ecuador.
Indeed, and we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll try to see who can make those alliances for the next presidential election. Thank you very much for your time, Fernando.
Thank you very much for the invitation again.
So we've been talking to political analyst Fernando Casado on the results of the local elections in Ecuador and how the political forces are lining up for the next presidential vote. Thank you for watching. This is Interviews from Quito. I'm Carla Gonzalez. Until next time.